time for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report special presentation of the Turnbuckle. It's live. We're Monday. It's Monday.
We are Monday. We are Monday.
You know what? We are Monday.
Yes.
And we're not late. You should have been early. Something like that.
Yes.
And we're not going to wait. We're not going to hold you up any longer. I know there's crazy things going on right now with the Copa America on the soccer side. And that's what partially what held us up here a moment ago with some of the craziness. Matter of fact, there's been craziness in the news. There's been apparently shots fired, potentially between some current superstars.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get our thoughts on that. And then, of course, Gulley has his top 5 games and an honorable mention.
Yep.
And then, of course, we'll break down Monday Night Raw. Speaking of Gulley, my guy to my left, your right, what's happening?
Everything's happening. Everything's happening. How you guys doing? Welcome to Monday night, the Turnbuckle for the Shop Report. I'm glad to be with you guys again. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to do the things that I love, talk about the things that I want, and share it with you so that way you can get my opinions and let's get right to it, man. Let's not hold them up.
Absolutely. Yeah, without further ado, first we're going to start with something that, you know, we've been, I don't want to say we've been critical, but many have been critical of the AEW product. Yep. And of course, Raw is actually taking place a little over that way. For those that could see, of course, I'm in Boston. But speaking of their...
Where they park their cars in the yard, right?
That's right. Yes. Right. So it's lobster. And I actually had some great chowder a little earlier.
For
so,
sure.
And so nevertheless, right here, Forbes values Tony Khan's product at $2 billion.
Is it publicly traded?
No, it's a private entity. No different than your NBA or NFL franchise.
Okay. It's valued at $2 billion. How did it get a $2 billion valuation? Based off of what?
So naturally, something I want to point out with valuations is that is inclusive of everything. Right. Okay. Anything. I mean, all the way down to that traveling circus truck that they may have. So they're talking about every asset that they own. And then on top of that, valuations also typically take that figure and then multiply it by a handful also. So usually I want to say that number is somewhere between 3 and 5. So in terms of actual assets and, you know, again, between the talent, the media deals, merch, etc., that's how it was probably close to, I would say, $500 million. And then,
wait,
remember though,
wait. How much money did Vincent Kennedy McMahon just get Was he forced to sell?
He was. Well, yes, he was. Yes, he was.
How much money did he get?
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think it would be. I think he'd make his money back before Christmas. I'm being. That's hyperbole, but it wouldn't take him no time to actually have Vince McMahon. Well, he's a polarizing figure, but I'm just saying he's spiteful. I mean, he's been basically the doors to his company have been locked from him.
Well, what was his company? It is
right. Nah, it hit. I mean, come on, man. I know it. I know who it belongs. Come on, bro. Like WWE. Tell me, UCTKO Group as the owner.
Unfortunately,
how many years will it? All right, so how many years?
Hang on a second. Colonel Sanders doesn't own KFC anymore.
Oh, really?
Dave, whatever.
I know you're right. I know you're right. I know exactly you're right. But what I'm saying is, we all know about the power of. Come on, man. They still call it Band-Aids.
Well, sure. And the tissue industry is known as Kleenex. Right. That's
exactly.
But the wrestling industry is not. You know what? That I will say this. They did look at, and this is verbiage used by Booker T.
Okay.
That they viewed the federation, is what they called it at the time.
Yep.
As essentially the show. That was because it was national at that point.
Okay.
Right. You're talking about previously all of those regional foundations, and you would have the likes of Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes that would go and travel and be a part of, and so what a treat that must have been for them to show up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and thinking it's just your typical, Friday night show. And then here comes Dusty Rhodes, right? And this is what I mean about them getting a little bit back to their roots. What this really should tell everyone, though, because you pointed out where Vince stands currently, which is certainly, I'm sure,
outside looking in of a product that he is instrumental in building. Not only understand Vince McMahon is a compelling reason why we get a valuation of a wrestling product at $2 billion in the States, right? He didn't have a direct hand necessarily in what All Elite Wrestling is. Professional wrestling, sports entertainment is an industry that Vince McMahon is most instrumental in developing, to the point where other billionaires got in to try to do, and that's what WCW became, right? It was a billionaire trying to do what another billionaire did. Sure. Recognizing, and I say that with much consideration to the idea that professional wrestling, that pro wrestling, is something that is part of our culture, and what you and your Dusty Rhodes anecdote, your Dusty Rhodes reference is in regards to it being part of the culture. So with wrestling being part of the culture, the branding and WWF or WWE being part of the branding, being part of the culture, Vince McMahon was most influential in professional wrestling being part of, or sports entertainment being part of the culture, to the point where, again, like I say, we see a product coming of age in modern, in the 21st century, in the 2020s rather, or the 20 teens or what have you, that's valued at $2 billion. Why? It's because it's a very interested market. All that being said, Vince McMahon is locked out of the company that he built. It'll be years before I see TKO as WWE has being a TKO product. It's still going to look to me and smell to me like Vince.
Where I'm going to disagree with you on a few things is, first is the TKO ripple effect there's a combination here. It's both TKO and Triple H,
Sure.
the two T's. So Vincent Kennedy McMahon is no longer not just involved metaphorically or literally in this case, but we're seeing that as how the show is going on, even though while saying that statement, part of what the current trend is actually going back to the era that he, of course, was the most successful in. But what this really should be telling you is how bad with the show right now, which is Who Killed WCW?
Yes.
Anyone at Turner Sports in that group, all those old executives, man, they should never be employed again. I'll say it bluntly like that, because this right here, and you had a product that was better. We know what WWE sold for.
Right.
But this should have been you. Except, we can't sell ads because we're out of touch executives.
Right.
And it's just, to me, what killed WCW was Turner. Everything else was merely a variable because of what they were doing. They kept shelling, Gulley, all of their debt to WCW. They would take the budget that was for Nitro, and told Eric Bischoff to create another show, right? Remember Thunder?
Yes.
To use the same budget. Right now, if someone came to me and said, you know what, that same money you want that I told you I was going to spend on one digital campaign, can you do it with two? The answer is no.
Oh, okay. So the same, let's say he had let's say he had a $800,000 budget.
Mm-hmm.
That budget now is not doubled. With the same $800,000, he needed to put two shows together with the same budget.
Yeah, this is very much Friday and Smokey's mom saying, make it work. Make it enough, I think was the verbiage she used in the movie.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
He knows in retrospect, in hindsight, as everybody does, that he shouldn't have went along with certain things. And yes, we all know his hair went from what ours looks like to, that was not spray paint.
Yeah.
And so
he got
that man went through it.
He got Steve Martin.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we've had him comment on this show, semi-verified, and it just, the more I sat there and processed this and seeing that number.
Yep.
Yes, it is to your point, that number is where it is due to Vincent McMahon. Yeah,
I think in some essence, like, I don't think he have everything to do with it, but the products does, but the foundation of it, like, who would have thought that another company outside of WWE would be a $1 billion sports entertainment company? Name another one. Like, how could, you know what I'm saying? Especially after the way the previous rival fell off, and then in its stead, right, in the decade or two, darn near 2 decades since the demise of WCW, we've known domestically of other wrestling products, right? There was ECW, there was TNA, there is Ring of Honor. There are products that never could even approach it couldn't approach WCW's worst revenue or attendance or market, right? It couldn't even approach it on its worst day.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
I'm going to throw the curveball at you now.
All right.
If he were to buy in, I don't believe at that figure he would go and buy it 100%. I think he would maybe buy 51% to start.
Yep.
He now takes over control.
Yes.
Where do you think it could really rival them? Do you think that's the avenue he would take? What would creative control Gulley do if he was to put on his best Vince impression on how he would approach the current wrestling climate?
That's a challenging question, because the reason why it's a challenging question is because I don't think I like everything that Vince McMahon would do. I'm not suggesting that Vince McMahon would make a better product. I'm suggesting that it would be interesting to see Vince McMahon attempt to beat the product that he helped develop. Many of the creative changes and decisions and pushes that head of creative Paul Levesque has done for WWE have been well received and well regarded. I mean, we've talking about the show. You know, we spend our podcast is part of it, right? So a lot of what we like about wrestling and the chances that he's given and granted to the talent for them to create their own name and develop and grow their own name, minus some missteps that we've also documented from WWE. We've largely welcomed what the direction that the company is going, the direction that the product is going by Paul Levesque. So much so that if Vince McMahon were to rival WWE with the AEW product, I don't know that I would like it, but third party, in my perspective, third party positioning, I would be interested to see what Vince would do. But I think his name alone and his name alone being back in the professional wrestling arena, in the sports entertainment arena, is enough to drive a great amount of interest. And who's to say that there aren't certain old heads or aren't certain young burgeoning talent that felt comfortable under Vince McMahon's wisdom and guidance, that wouldn't welcome a change in a direction. Put it this way.
Could he make magic with that group? Because in theory, they're the outcast. Maybe with the exception of MJF. That would be the only immediate exception that could go to the other brand today.
When you say MJF going to WWE?
Yeah, like if they had their own draft and they said, okay, just one guy from each, but at least, and they were to pick, wouldn't that decision, would you say, conclusively be MJF? No questions asked?
Why would it be anybody else? Why would it be anybody else?
So that's what's interesting to me is outside of him.
Yeah.
Who or how, rather, would this guy make it work again?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I see what you're saying.
There's layers to this because now he's got to work with essentially his rejects.
Correct. And did they leave because they were tired of Vince? But Vince is back again.
But he doesn't have a choice, right? He can't just go and grab the other guys.
What you saying? Vince can't grab the WWE talent?
Correct. I mean, he could slowly over time.
Right. All right. So, I'm glad that you asked that because I didn't think of it that way. I didn't think of I didn't think of the talent that he would have to work with were he to step back in professional wrestling or sports entertainment. I thought of it from the perspective of, could Vince McMahon create a better product? Could Vince McMahon create a better AEW than the current AEW? Like so I'm looking at it from the perspective of, you see the AEW product now, compare it to WWE, and then also at the same time, you have the AEW product, you have the current WWE, and then you have Vince McMahon's WWE. If you ranked the three, what would you put, worst to first or first to worst? Where would you rank them? That's what I was thinking about it when I answered the question, or when I thought of the idea of Vince McMahon stepping back into professional, into sports entertainment. I think he could create a better AEW than the one that exists.
Wow.
But I didn't consider, guys left because they wanted the freedoms that didn't exist before Triple H, before Paul Levesque gained greater responsibility or gained greater creative control. So I'm counting on Vince McMahon being spiteful.
But he doesn't have a choice. And so, but we do. And we're going to give our co-host here a minute to chew on this one. Matter of fact, we'll give him a whole minute and a half. Eddie G's Cookies, now on Amazon. Get yours.
I'm Jordan Gudeman, and I'm the founder and CEO of Eddie G's Cookies. I was first diagnosed with a nut allergy when I was young. At the time, there weren't a lot of labeled items that said if there may contain nuts or there are nuts in the food, so my brother and sister and I baked a lot at home, and we enjoyed treats from mixes and things like that, but I noticed that it was not the same as what my friends were enjoying, and I started making my own recipes. When it was time to pick a career, I decided to start a bakery so I could share my treats with everybody else. When I started creating my recipe, I was taking in all the things that I thought I was missing out on. A soft, chewy center, a crisp outside crust, and a taste that is just like it came out of the oven at a bakery. When I put all those things together, I had come up with a recipe for a dream cookie. Eddie G's Cookies only uses the finest ingredients. We have all natural flavorings, no preservatives, and every cookie is made in a nut-free environment. The best part about Eddie G's Cookies is that they can be delivered right to your door. You can share them or not. We won't tell.
All right, and we are back. And better than ever, of course. All right, Gulley. You've had a minute 30 to make $1.3 million worth of decisions. If Vince comes back with vengeance, right?
Yes.
How far does it get him?
It makes for an interesting few months. I can imagine Vince McMahon doing exactly what he did on, was it March 24th, 2001?
I believe so. I believe you nailed that, literally.
Well, March 24th, 2001. That AEW, that edition of AEW that he grabs the mic and comes down, would be.
Well, wait a minute. When Nitro started, right?
Yes.
And he's doing that vignette of, I thought you wouldn't have ever seen me on this program.
Right.
Oh, dude, come on. Oh my gosh.
Right. He runs that. He runs it back.
Oh,
right. He runs it back. Yeah, Matt. I mean, it's going to be initial pop because it's just surreal to see Vince McMahon, back at the face, back as the face of a company, a sports entertainment company, and then to see Vince McMahon back rivaling his own legacy in a sense. That'll be interesting. What decisions does he make? I think if Vince McMahon does have keen perspective, he will value and respect the frustrations that led to his later talent leaving. And I would hope and trust that he does have a more respectable ear for their decisions and their narratives and their stories. Right. But then I think he will correct some of the missteps, certainly that Tony Khan has made, namely situations that led to behavior back and forth, that led to the CM Punk incident, that I think plummeted the current view of the product.
Interesting.
Because understand, right? If we talk about the issue again, remember the catalyst for it was essentially, if I understand it correctly, the catalyst for it was a disagreement on whether a talent should take a risky spot and him wanting to do it anyway. And a veteran saying, hey, protect yourself. You don't have to go to these extremes for the product. And the back and forth behind that and the way it was handled, probably the manner and the dialogue that of the disagreement and the chaos that felt, that came about because of it. That part, I think Vince McMahon would have a better handle on making sure it doesn't get out of hand and therefore ruin the reputation of the product. I think Vince McMahon would have a tighter grip on that. And that would lead to a better presentation of your brand.
Interesting. But could they coexist? Could Tony Khan be his muse?
No, because Tony Khan got a dad.
Yeah, but his dad is very successful, right?
Exactly. So we can work with each other, but understand what Tony Khan has that he's running. It would be like, okay, if Shane McMahon had to work with Mr. Khan, knowing that there could be some competitive or some contention, how far would it go before said senior would have to play referee?
So in this, I'm going to bring up another WCW reference with this because Eric Bischoff obviously had to work with Ted Turner.
Yes.
When the Time Warner acquisition occurred,
yes,
Ted Turner's voice was no longer of any value.
Sure.
Because he was now they had a board of directors. Now they had, he just had a corner office.
Right.
And with the examples that you're providing, what this very much reminds me of is to some extent that those types of circumstances, but certainly the first one, which is when he had to work with him. Remember, if I were to ask you now, does the Elder Khan like wrestling or does he only like the profits? Because depending on your answer will tell you or guide you on how this relationship really would be shaped.
I think what I'm saying is I think he only likes the profits. I think he's only interested in managing the profits, making sure that it makes and earns money. It's interesting. I think it keeps, let's say, the legacy active, because now, his son, Tony Khan, has something worthwhile to do. But I don't think that Mr. Khan, and I say Mr. because I'm missing his first name. I think that I don't think he wants to complicate his life by having to manage both the Jaguars and the other businesses that led him to be a billionaire, plus this. Like, this is too much, or I'm not interested in also managing this. This is my opinion. I'm just saying that in terms of making sure that it is managed right and making sure that people have a voice to be heard, and understanding that, perspective wise, you're going to work with, Vince McMahon would work with a Tony Khan, but we're going to make sure that there is a healthy balance of respect in the senior subordinate dynamic that would occur if Vince McMahon were to buy in at majority and become, the senior creative control, voice of creative control, by being a majority owner.
I see it a little bit different, because I think Vince, even after the merger, has a decent line of sight into how they operate. And
Okay.
of course, as you pointed out, was certainly a catalyst to where the industry currently is, and what it took to get there. And now you're putting him in a very similar position, that the idea of the merger, but the key difference here is the relationship he would have had with the TKO group, had it made it to this point, would have been far less oversight as time went on, versus if he were to buy in currently, where he would have majority ownership, again, albeit nearly as equals or just slight majority ownership, where he could leverage using Tony Khan as more of it, certainly an Eric Bischoff.
Exactly. Yeah, he can recreate that, right? And it would work. Yeah, go ahead.
And not only that, be able to then therefore focus on what he knows best, knowing he has the financial backing, power of two very wealthy groups that, truthfully, up until that point, he had, other than what, maybe 60 days, it really felt like,
right,
he had never experienced that before. So he would have the money and the power. And of course, he already has our respect. So that, according to the locks, was the key to life. So
yes. right.
In conclusion, on my end, I actually think it would be very successful. I don't believe, as I've stated before, that it needs to rival one another, that they can coexist. And what this does to me is it drives one more painful stake in the heart of those that watched the WCW go up in flames, because this reality should, in the eyes of many, should have already been there, and we should be very fortunate that it is currently today. Any final thoughts on your end?
I see what you're saying. Knowing how WCW was killed and how he was successful in killing WCW, Vince McMahon, in terms of, how he navigated WWE at the time, having that experience and that exposure, I think he would be able to make and correct many of the missteps that led to WCW's downfall, and create a truly rivaled product that would, in fact, create a brand new Wednesday night or Friday night or Monday Night War. I would be interested to see.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Could you imagine? I mean, now I was done, but now you throw that in there. The Monday Night Wars again?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it would be a different day. I mean, to start.
Right.
I could easily see him going and challenging his own product and us witnessing that all over again. And oh my goodness, for those of us that have already lived it once,
I would buy a VCR again.
That's what I'm saying.
I would buy 2 VCRs again. Have my Maxell tape and the super long play so I can get all of it and just record the moments just because, just out of pure nostalgia.
Absolutely. So again, we'll see what's to come, but this is actually a good sign. And I always want, again, I'm all for it as a fan of the industry. And so again, any final thoughts on you before we take our next?
One last thing. Is Shane McMahon currently active at WWE?
From what I understand, there were a few things that went on where the answer is yes, but in a far active, unfortunately, I'm going to use a terrible example.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Active in a very light way.
Okay.
So, and again, this was on display, the very slightest, if you wanted to know, from his son, that is a football player, one at Indiana, and I believe he transferred now to North Carolina, but they made the belts for the universities because of with Shane's help.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so he definitely still has that type of sway. Now, are you suggesting he could recruit Shane? Yeah, are you throwing that in there now?
Yeah. It'll be a voice, right? That's possible.
Oh, dude. Oh my gosh. Look, for the sake of time, I mean, I'll table this, but it is just that I'm going to let everyone, for myself, yourself, those out watching now, and you guys are, of course, coming out in droves again. We absolutely appreciate it. By all means, comment. We are not here to criticize. So this is an open forum for everyone and always will be. And in the meantime, we have some great things to dive into next. Matter of fact, put on your bulletproof vest because shots have been fired.
Whoa.
It's K Cunningham, and you watching the Shop Report.
I'm Homie Diallo, and you watching the Shop Report.
My name's Chris Murray, and you're watching the Shop Report.
Oh, you're Jay Nigh, you're watching the Shop Report.
Max McKee, you're dropping in on the Shop Report.
Barbershop Jay, Quentin Hines, Super Bowl champion. I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm on.
Hi, I'm Mars Edwards from Mercury Stadium, and you're watching the Shock Report.
Hey, I'm Billy Butler, and thank you for watching the Shop Report. Hey guys, I'm Les Norman, former Kansas City Royal, and you're watching the Shop Report.
Commander Brown, Detroit Rivers Mountain Training, and I'm watching the Shop Report.
Hey, this is Doug Flynn of the New York Mets. Well, a few other teams, of course, too. And you're watching the Shop Report.
I'm Matt Ramos, and you're watching the Shop Report.
How you doing? I'm Rajay Davis, and you're watching the Shop Report.
How you doing? This is Nelson Figueroa, former Major League pitcher with a lot of teams. You're about to listen to the Shop Report.
All right, we are back once again. Raw has just concluded mere moments ago. People are filing out, of course. And Gulley.
Yes.
Your guy, Adam Copeland.
Yep.
Well, we're on a roll with AEW today so far.
Yeah, we are. I think it's welcome too. We know when we talk about the turnbuckle real quick before we get into this, when we talk about the turnbuckle, we do have a primary focus on the big show, right?
Absolutely.
Of Booker T called it the show. We have a primary focus on the show because it is and remains the biggest show in town in sports entertainment. However, there's more to professional wrestling than just the show. And, we want to make sure that we do our job at bringing more of that out, and talking about it, how big it is, from a national, state, or regional aspect, and then a global aspect, right? So opportunities like this help us to do that. So go ahead, man. Hey, just give a synopsis though, because before I dive in, I really want to make sure I capture what Adam Copeland stated, right? Because I know someone followed up about it, and I didn't understand, and I couldn't grasp at first the how raw, if you will, his reaction was. I didn't quite comprehend that because I'm not in the business. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? Hang on. I'm first. I want to echo your sentiments about the direction of the program as a whole, and just let everyone know that this is all the squared circle.
Yep.
Like anything, we could talk about OVW. We can talk about Megan's uncle's promotion there in Jellicoe, Tennessee.
Yes.
And we can talk the college wrestling. Matter of fact, Gable Stevenson, multi-time NCAA champ, who was a part of WWE at one point in time, is now with the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
Look, the UFC as well. And matter of fact, I was just with a gentleman just getting started. That kid is going to do numbers one day in that, because he's watching these people's careers rise the same way, that no different than what I was just shedding light on, right? With where they start. And so I want everyone to be clear that we talk all of it. You will see me, as much as I maybe am not the biggest Michigan fan, but yet, despite that, you'll see me at Michigan wrestling events.
Ooh-wee.
Absolutely.
Shame on you. Ooh.
Absolutely. Because that's where this stuff is created. That is the foundational elements to this. And so as it pertains to, we hear in life often about getting a little bit of help, right? Everybody, you come out of college, you hear it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, did we find that out last Wednesday or last Thursday? I'm sorry.
Do explain.
Oh yeah, there was a draft for a certain national sports association. Well, I think they played basketball, and there was this guy that got drafted. Man, what is his last name? James or something.
That's right.
Yeah, he got drafted. Yeah. But I digress.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to give this, I'm going to read it in its full to make sure you have a true understanding of it first, and then I'm going to read the reply. Okay. And so this is AEW star Adam Copeland discusses giving younger talent the rub. And he discussed why his goal in AEW is to help out younger talent. And he also named a few stars that he wanted to face. In his recent appearance on the 3NT Wrestling podcast, he offered how AEW offers him a greater opportunity to tell good stories. To tell good stories, honestly, and to be around to be able to really tell those stories. It's hard to tell a story when you pop in and out every kind of 3 months or whatever, said Copeland. But to be involved on essentially a week-to-week basis, to add layers, to bring other characters and have them add to the story, but also hopefully get a bit of a rub from it too. To be involved with guys like Christian and myself, between us 62 years worth of experience or whatever that is. And if we can help the younger talent get along the way with a few tidbits here and there, The Hall of Famer stated that many legends helped him in his younger years, and he wants to now pass that on to the stars in AEW.
Right.
He also listed a few stars that he's eager to get in the ring with, which includes the likes of Mark Briscoe, Hangman Adam Page, Jon Moxley, and Swerve Strickland.
Yep.
I want to get in there with Mark Briscoe. I want to get in there with Swerve, Hangman, Moxley. Like already, there's a list of talent that I've never touched. And that's really exciting at this stage of my career to go, wait, there's an entire roster that I haven't wrestled. And so he goes on to name, of course, that, Copeland, who started the Judgment Day faction in WWE in recent years, was asked whether he would like to form a group in AEW and which stars he would like to recruit to this group. He mentioned Griff Garrison as someone he would like to recruit. It's something I hadn't even contemplated yet. But if I'm looking at the roster, I see a guy like Griff who reminds me a lot of me when I was that age. That's a guy that I've already been reaching out to and trying to say, hey, if you try this or try that. So that would be one guy for sure. He then explained that he seeks individuals who are on the cusp of a breakthrough.
Yep.
I think more than anything, it would be talent that I feel is on the cusp and really have a shot to do something. And that was the idea with Judgment Day. Like I saw Priest, I saw Rhea, I saw Finn, and I knew they could do more.
Okay. Now, let's pause that real quick. Is that... So, by that logic, based off of what he stated, is that what happened with Judgment Day? At least while he was there, did they get more?
Mm-hmm.
Did their stock rise? Did they get more? Did they improve from their position before Judgment Day? Now, when we talk about Finn Balor, he was already high up, and then he kind of floundered. Something happened. Did Judgment Day give Finn Balor, at least for the time, at least at the time that Edge was there, did it give him a bit of juice? Did it resurge? Did it improve? Did it improve his stock being at Judgment Day from the position that it was at the time that he arrived, that he was before Judgment Day? You follow what I'm saying?
Are you asking, did the creation of the faction benefit the players involved?
Yes.
Well, naturally, the answer is yes, because of course, I've listed all of the accolades that those guys.
You did. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes, you did.
To the point where, matter of fact, I mean, this would have actually been an excellent segue into us actually concluding if they are the most successful faction of all time.
Well,
and that might be just a topic for next week.
No, they're not the most successful faction.
No,
unequivocally.
But again, remember,
we'll explain why.
Whoa! Before you write them off,
write
them off, we're going to include his what he contributed.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Right now, 2 T-shirts on sale. You go to a live event. You go to a PLE live event. 2 T-shirts on sale. You. Judgment Day shirt, $20. NWO T-shirt, $20. Which one you buying?
Well, I already have.
Thank you. Let's go ahead. Let's move forward.
I already have one.
So you'd have to. So let's move on. Let's move on.
We would have to see it to confirm, but he, again, I get your point though. Yes, as far as where they, but again, let's just say they're in the top 5. I mean, that's still ridiculous because they've done it. Look how long the NWO run was and how ridiculous it got. I mean, at one point, it felt like the entire roster. I mean, Dennis Rodman was NWO, for crying out loud.
That is true, and that was part of.
So, are we going to include that in their accolades? The world champion. Well, no, 2 from just the Pistons.
Was that part of their in the documentary Who Killed WCW? Was that metastasizing? Was that mentioned?
Absolutely, it was.
Okay. Yeah.
That they themselves were just exhausted by the combination of they didn't know what they were doing towards the end.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it seemed like, again, Eric was at that point they were all overworked.
He was out of ideas and energy.
Well, it wasn't really ideas. He had nothing more to do. He had 2 shows with the same group of people that you couldn't really build anymore. And so there was times where, you would literally see Bret Hart go out and like hammer, someone. And he goes, well, what am I running out here for? And he honestly didn't know. Dude, I'm telling you, hearing that, like a part of me was just so fulfilled because I remember asking myself, what is he doing out there? Why is he involved? And, there was no angle, and that makes me feel so fulfilled. Like,
right. So it's like you kind
of
knew
chaos.
Yeah. So you just like, you kind of know, like, okay, I'm not just naive. I'm not ignorant. Like, I'm seeing this for what it is. Like, no, this doesn't make sense. Got you. Now, getting back to what we were saying with Adam Copeland, or what we wanted to bring up. So you saying he mentioned guys he wants to work with, like the idea of creating a new Judgment Day or an iteration of Judgment Day in AEW, Swerve Strickland, Hangman, John Moxley, or whatnot, right? So he wanted to work with new talent. He wants to impress upon them. Okay. Now, let's hit back at what Cody Rhodes' reaction was to this. Pretty much. Well, we can't say it was his reaction, but the contrasting statement that Cody Rhodes made regarding younger talent regarding veterans wanting to help out younger talent.
The number one, we're going to dive into it. And so this is direct quotes here. Okay. Matter of fact, here we go. The number one red flag I hear. If you meet a guy who is a legend, who is coming in on the roster, and he's going to be active, or a part-time guy, the number one red flag, if you're young or in the middle of the pack talent, is when you hear somebody say, I'm just here for the young guys. I already know you're not just here for the young guys. I would rather you tell me straight up, I'm here for some of y'all, and I'm here for myself. Whoa.
Yeah.
Hello, police?
Right. Well, all right. What? Okay, because first of all, I agree. I do hear that this is almost a direct shot at what Adam Copeland said.
Gulley, he's not catching strays here. I might be. They may be coming through the window.
What I need help understanding is why this is such a red flag. Like, why this is so egregious. Like, why is this so selfish? Like, why is it red? So why is this such a red flag if in Cody Rhodes' perspective? Like, what is the harm?
I am so glad you asked that.
Yeah, because I that's what I'm missing. That's what I'm missing.
You know, and I naturally gave that quite a bit of thought myself, and I'm like, gosh, why is he so against this? What is it about that statement that's so wrong? And then, thanks to you on a handful of shows over the last, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, you brought up pop culture.
Yes.
And you brought up Drake.
Okay.
And one of the biggest criticisms that I had heard about Drake was, hey, he went and stole this guy's entire sound. Hey, what he does, he's a genius. He goes and he finds the hottest guy that's out there, and he does not a feature with him. It's his song, and then he features the other guy.
Oh. Okay.
And then I drew a parallel.
Okay.
Because there was a kid out there that pretty much that's what played out. He said, man, they loved what I was talking about. Or no, it was XXX Tentacion.
Yep.
And he's on record of saying he took his entire flow.
Yeah. Him and Kiss Me Through the Phone. Soldier Boy Toe. Right.
And so what I started to think about as it pertained to Adam Copeland is that, oh my gosh, he wants to work with these guys because they're the hottest thing smoking. And being potentially in a legend not only would add substance to what they're doing, but then take it a step further and it would continue to add to his legacy.
All right. So again, what is wrong with that? And I say that because what's the difference between that and, let's say, Icon versus Icon at WrestleMania 18?
Continue.
Like, what is the difference in that and then versus Chris Jericho doing the job for Fandango at WrestleMania? That's what I'm missing. I'm missing how it does a disservice. Like, I'm missing the veil. What's the veiled or the thinly veiled dishonesty that Cody Rhodes is hinting at. That's what I'm missing, because I'd like to understand his point, and I'm afraid I don't.
Well, I'm going to tell you one, and I think this is going to drive it home pretty loud and clear.
Okay.
Adam Copeland has not been pinned by anyone under the age of 35 since 2011.
So you saying, in a sense, it's kind of like a Triple H thing. When I say a Triple H thing, like Triple H needing to go over guys that his stock, like Triple H needing to go over Sting at WrestleMania with Sting. Oh, okay.
And it's because these guys, their stock is rising.
Yep.
And he knows, right, at Father Time being undefeated.
Yeah.
Their stock's going to continue to rise. And what's going to happen, despite, I think, already being a Hall of Famer, I got over on you. I got over on him too. So when you are able to actually look back, not only does it keep him relevant,
right,
but then it really reiterates how great he was.
But I got
it
another.
Feeds the ego.
I got another challenge for that. Another parallel.
Okay, all right.
Cody Rhodes is 40, or he will be 40 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Cody Rhodes at the moment, though 40 ain't the same 40 that it was, a couple decades ago? Do you think Cody Rhodes is kind of a bit premature in his assessment of this? With all due respect to Cody Rhodes and how long he's and his length of time in the industry, does this strike me as his position as being a bit John Cena-ish versus comparing The Rock being a part-timer? Really taking issue with The Rock being a part-timer at the time that The Rock was, considering everything else he's got going on. And then only years later to understand it from the position, like Cody Rhodes Edge has been his age. He ain't been Cody Rhodes, and that's a statement that I inherited from my family. I've been your age, you ain't been mine. When Cody Rhodes is 48 and still able to perform and able to give main event level matches or mid to late level matches versus a younger talent, what's to prevent him from A, feeling that same way, and B, having some matches where he gets over and being here for the young talent? Like, you get what I'm getting? You see what I'm saying?
I do, but the problem with this is that we're having to do the what if versus the fact, right? Cody isn't out making those claims. He's not saying I'm here for the young guys. He's not.
Because he's still a young guy. He's, like I said, he's still a young guy. He's still very much in the thick of it. Cody Rhodes still has...
He's the champion. Of course he is.
Right. So 8 years from now,
I expect to see him at the Performance Center.
Cody Rhodes.
Absolutely.
So
if he wants to remain involved. Then
okay.
Entirely up to him at that stage of his life. But yeah, I'm sure a decision between him and Brandy at that point.
Right.
But what he's not going to be doing, again, well, here's the thing. We're looking at, when you look at what Ric Flair did for Randy Orton, what he did for, I can only speak really to attest to Randy, who's been very verbal about what he did for, what he considers a young punk kid at that age.
Yes.
I haven't seen that from Adam Copeland. Him creating a faction like the Judgment Day, he didn't get a chance to really see it through. So that was more, their accolades have a lot more to do with their individual talent in the direction of creative, not so much anyone else.
Okay, right. All right, I get you on that. And I guess for me, Cody Rhodes is saying this, but there's got to be a specific, there's got to be anecdotal, there's got to be a reference why. I don't like to deal too much with the gossip, but I got to hear this why. Like, I would be very appreciative for him to peel back that curtain a little bit more and say, you know what, because this superstar did that same thing, and look what he did to me and whomever else. Like, I seen firsthand this, I'm here for the young guys, turn out to be, I'm just in business for myself. Who did he? Because see, it sounds like he's seen this firsthand. He's not talking about the industry in the whole. Remember, he's in WWE now. Adam Copeland's in AEW. They didn't cross paths in AEW, but it sounds like he's seen this work out maliciously. But I like to know the context.
To me, that's a warning flare. That he's speaking up on, as you pointed out, things that he has witnessed, and what he's trying to do is basically say, look, this guy, I'm going to call BS on it now. And he may be not holding him directly accountable, but he, in many ways, he is based on the actions of others. But again, that is a really tough stat when you say that he has an edge. Adam Copeland has not been pinned by anyone under the age of 35, Gulley, which is not really your spring chicken anymore.
Now,
in 14 years.
Now, hold on. So, see, that 14 years, the other thing I like to.
Come on now, and across two companies, mind you.
14 years. Wait a minute. When did he retire?
There would have been a gap. It would have certainly been a part of that. So maybe,
but I think that gap is substantial. I think that gap is at least 4 years.
So So, but wait a minute. That's that. I get it. He's your guy. He's your.
No,
guy.
he's not. No, that's not what I'm getting at. But I'm saying you said he would. Okay, yeah. Since 2011, right? He retired in 2011. He's been active for the last 4 years. There's a 9-year gap when nobody was pinning him under the age of 35. Well, he was being pinned by somebody over the age of 35, and it's 11:35. It's probably his wife. So wait a minute. Let's put that in perspective here. I'm saying that I don't know. Like I don't know if this is as negative as it appears as it reads, because I think it reads negative, but I feel like I'm missing context. I just feel like I'm missing context. I'm missing how destructive this is. Now, the example that I thought you were going to say, in reference to Cody Rhodes, was The Rock in this year's WrestleMania.
I have gotten vibes from that though, and he really could be talking about it.
Now, if that is in fact his point of reference, then the entire essence, and like I said, the negativity that I hear from it, it all reads exactly okay. It makes sense. I get it, and I understand the depth. I get it. I understand the negativity he behind it.
But now, wait a minute. But he's holding the belt. You know how sometimes, like in the NFL, right?
Okay.
We have not in a while seen the loser make it back to the Super Bowl. And what really something I'm reading between the lines of this.
Yeah,
what's that?
You talking about like immediately?
Right.
You talking about, okay, because we got the 49ers in the 2 of the last 4 Super Bowls.
Right, but not not
consecutive.
Not consecutive.
We had a Buffalo Bills situation. Gotcha.
All right, which takes us, unfortunately, quite a ways back. And so because of that, you can tell that they treat this circumstance very much in the same light. And where Cody becomes the exception is that in a match where The Rock gets put over, if he is referring to him, Cody still becomes the champion.
Sure.
So what's there to be bitter about, I guess, again, and then tying it back to Edge's original statement, because if that was actually true, and then you essentially, fall off the mountain after that, then I get it. But that's not what happened here with Cody.
Right.
And that's where because again, where you thought I was going to go with it and where you went with it, as much as it would have made sense, it didn't actually hurt him.
Right. It didn't hurt him. And then this is why I'm confused, because in the case of Adam Copeland, him not being pinned by a guy under 35, him working with younger talent, where did it stymie the younger talent? Where did it say that what younger talent that did Adam Copeland or Edge, just for the interest of time to make it simple, where did Edge get over younger talent that the younger talent then halted or never came back up? Who did Edge get over that never got better or they stopped rising?
That's the thing. It would have to be, you would almost have to have people speaking out about it. Right. Beyond that. And unfortunately right now, I don't believe we would hear now why he's active. And then to your point as well, Cody would have had to list it. He would have had to have named names at some point, but he's active, so he's not likely to do that.
Right.
And so he could talk about everyone from, Taker to to Kane, Mick Foley, anyone who still actually has a role actively, behind the curtain.
Right.
And so you can't go out and do that either. And
Sure.
so, this is one of those things to ponder where the world may never know. But you know what we will know, which is your top 5 and that honorable mention. So stay tuned. We're taking a full timeout. And we'll be diving right into that next.
I'm Jordan Gudeman, and I'm the founder and CEO of Eddie G's Cookies. I was first diagnosed with a nut allergy when I was young. At the time, there weren't a lot of labeled items that said if there may contain nuts or there are nuts in the food, so my brother and sister and I baked a lot at home, and we enjoyed treats from mixes and things like that, but I noticed that it was not the same as what my friends were enjoying, and I started making up my own recipes. When it was time to pick a career, I decided to start a bakery so I could share my treats with everybody else. When I started creating my recipe, I was taking in all the things that I thought I was missing out on. A soft, chewy center, a crisp outside crust, and a taste that is just like it came out of the oven at a bakery. When I put all those things together, I had come up with a recipe for a dream cookie. Eddie G's Cookies only uses the finest ingredients. We have all natural flavorings, no preservatives, and every cookie is made in a nut-free environment. The best part about Eddie G's Cookies is that they can be delivered right to your door. You can share them or not. We won't tell.
All right, and we are back. And let's see.
All right. Yep. So, you know how we've been toying with this for weeks, and we finally got a list together. And you know how I say I don't like I can't do a list more than 20.
That's
right?
true.
You said 5.
Now, what I want to ask you about this, is it in order 1 is the number 1 or number 1 is your honorable mention?
Let's take a look at this list. What you can do is you start with 7 and you work your way up to 2, and number 1 would be the honorable mention.
Oh, wait a minute. So we got to bounce around a little bit. Is what?
No. What I'm saying is, if you show it, because I did it in the presentation format, so hopefully you don't. Hopefully you can just remove the navigations from the side of it.
I'm gonna try to do that now here.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me try something here. Let me see if I can present.
So you should be able to.
I can do this F5 on the screen, minimize that part, and then put this up, and then here. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go here. Hold on. Let's cue this up.
All right. In the meantime, we'll.
Yep. There we go.
What it do, sports fans? It's your man BSJ from the Shop Report. And guess what? The shop is now open for business, baby. If you're on Facebook, go to our fan page, The Shop Report, click on More, and then Shop to view all products. Or if you're on Instagram, click on the Shop tab to see all our products. I mean, what you want me to do? I'm selling merch here.
All right. And it looks like we have it ready. Is that correct?
Yep, we've got it ready. So hold on, let me see here.
Wow. Tell me when you want me to add our first.
Oh, you gotta actually do that part.
No. I just put it on. I'm just gonna present it. As far as like putting it on the screen here.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. So yeah, let's start with this one.
All right, here we go. Gulley's. Is this the honorable mention?
No. This is so my list has 7. I've got 7 entries on the list. Okay. I know we said top 5, but I couldn't do 5. I got 7.
You couldn't do 5. Wait a minute. There was 5 in an honorable mention.
Well, I had 2 honorable mentions. All right. Listen, just look.
What is this?
This is what we do.
So these two would.
So this here is number 7.
Okay.
Or number 6. Hold on, let me see.
All right, that's what I wanted to know. Is it an honorable mention or is it number 6?
Yeah. Okay. So look here. We'll figure this out. All right. We'll walk with this. Okay. This isn't the honorable mention. Hold on. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 6 on my list. All right. Is WWF Attitude. And in my opinion, it is the version I'm picking is the Sony PlayStation version. WWF Attitude. First of all, let's get the good, not so good. The good and the great is expanded roster. Okay. Gameplay was fast. If you remember, the Acclaim engine at this time was built off of WWF Warzone, which came out the year prior. But much better, much more improved, faster pace. The way that the game worked, you had your basic controls, but you did a lot of special moves or what have you. Dealt with was a lot of combinations. So left, right, A, left, right, X, left, right, triangle, left, down. So kind of like Mortal Kombat-esque. I mean, Acclaim Sports, Mortal Kombat-esque in terms of how to execute the move. So it was a bit basic. There are certainly better wrestling engines out there. They improved. There were better ones at the time, and there were better ones that came up after it. What I liked about the game was the music. The themes, especially in the PlayStation version, were as real, as true to life as they could be. The custom theme music was great. And what I didn't know that I learned only recently is that Road Dogg, Jesse James, he did a lot of the vocals for the custom music on the game. One of the other aspects that I liked about this game in particular was that you could create your own pay-per-view, down to the ring, the ring, the entrance, and you can create your own match card. So you had the idea of being able to create your own pay-per-view, your own in your house, your own Backlash, your own Judgment Day, or whatever pay-per-view you wanted. You can create it. That, to me, made it my 7th or my 6th, okay? Yeah, my 6th favorite wrestling game of all time. What say you, Double J? Do you remember playing WWF Attitude?
I do. Okay. And this is a phenomenal selection. It broken down very well. What I struggled with actually was kicking out.
Yeah.
For a PS1 game, this one, as much fun as it was also almost comically difficult for me. And I want to attribute that to age, but I will say this, it was better than its predecessor up to that point. And from a roster, I enjoyed it. I loved the music. This was what gave me a sample of really what I was looking for on my end. And it really helped, I would say, even in the present of when I evaluate criteria, when I saw, this from a cover art standpoint gave me enough. It wasn't over the top and over promising and potentially under delivering as some of our SmackDown versus Raw games ultimately would in the future.
Yep.
And we would again use the verbiage of going numb.
Yes.
Instead, this showed me what really was possible.
Right.
So much so that some of these early games, again, for myself, had already, I would hold it against future versions.
Yes.
Because they would cut corners. Despite different developers, I would still hold them to a standard that was being laid out by their really early renditions such as this. So fantastic pick.
All right. Next up on the list, favorite wrestling games of all time. Here we go. WWF SmackDown 2, Know Your Role. Remember, I talked about this on the previous shows. I really enjoyed this game. I liked the SmackDown-esque presentation of it. The SmackDown, when you hit your special move, the SmackDown logo flashes across the screen before the camera to get the cinematic camera and to cut the angle to when you hit your special move, when you hit your finisher.
Yes.
It was fast-paced. Remember, I told you about my famous Rikishi story, right? It was from this game. It was the feud that I had with Rikishi. Kept challenging me for the Intercontinental title. I kept beating him, kept jobbing. And then I figured it out for myself. Like, all right, in order to win, you got to lose. I dropped the belt to Rikishi on SmackDown. And I think I dropped that belt the week of a pay-per-view and won the WWF title. So that sort of cinematic storytelling that I was able to create, was able to get a sense of, I got it on this one. It was much like Attitude was better than Warzone. When Acclaim had the lights, when Acclaim made the WWF games, WWF SmackDown 2 was better than the original SmackDown in every measurable way. Not to say that SmackDown was bad, but it just was better. So you can make the good great, and without making the good look bad. This, without saying anything else, this was my number. Hold on, I said 6. Yeah, this is my 6th pick. So what do you think about this one?
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, this one really frustrated me because of its load times.
Yeah.
But it was worth it. It was worth the weight in gold.
Yes.
To this day, can you name a better game that, as it pertains to story mode and the just vast, the true control, that you had creative control, so much so that if you remember, you didn't even have to play. You, as the user, could take the night off.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you were worried about what was going to go down, right? If you didn't want to drop that title,
right,
you could watch it.
You could watch. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I'm going to give context here. In FIFA, okay? Only in FIFA FC. They changed. I'm sorry. It's EAFC now.
Right.
They stopped calling it FIFA. They got a whole nother game. And this is the first time that you can actually have, you can watch that manager mode kind of play out.
Right.
Otherwise, it was watching a bunch of dots across the screen and then potentially intervening to see the screen itself. But so we're talking about a game from over 2 decades ago that gave you that type of functionality.
Right.
Listen to that statement, folks.
Yeah. Right. 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 The only thing that carries over from old games. Look at this guy. This guy.
I thought he had to work.
He thought he had to work.
Oh, we know. Afternoon delight. That's what it is. He's taking.
Right. He working. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's putting in overtime. If we ask you.
Right. Exactly.
But no, in all seriousness, this game was so freaking cool because if I remember correctly, one of the things that was arguably one of the most coolest, I'm shocked this is an honorable mention, Gulley. I really am. Like, that's why I was like, which order is this in? Because
it's not honorable mention. No. It's on my list. It's in my favorites, bro. It's like number 5 on the list.
Okay. And that in itself is just wild. Like, again, this is the beauty of the criteria, but I get it. I get it. And I'm going to say this. I had otherwise never came across a game that you've already decided, right? These are the parameters. This is my character. These are his alliances or, who he's feuding with. And, oh, no, my cousin is here and he wants to play with me.
Yep.
And he can join.
Yeah.
Even though, because it was using the real dates, we started in January, it's April.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Right. Right. Yeah, this game had it, right.
It had it. It had it.
It had it. Right.
It told me this was possible.
That's what I'm saying.
For those out there that are going to come across this, you have to understand the true gems. I don't know how much development time went into this, but to me, it should have been the standard.
Right.
And this is how we reached a point to where we became numb, because as games got into more of a multiplayer or a online focus, even if microtransactions to me are a moot point, because what that represents actually is more development time in order to give us the things that we desire.
Yes.
And yet we were losing. It was coming at the cost of some of this functionality that should have been essentially like a dynasty mode.
Yep.
Like, I hope to see, and I will absolutely be welcoming to it with the new college football game that is set to launch here in just a few short weeks.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yes, I will ruin your time with this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly think there's going to be some type of dynasty mode in the NCAA game.
But again, with a game like, even if we were to say WWE 2K24, people should be able to come and go as they please as it pertains to the storyline. Why? Not just because I think it's the right thing to do, because we've had a game that said you could do it.
Yes.
And that's where they should know the role and go right down Jabroni Drive.
Absolutely. Now this is one of my favorites. Lots of replay time here. Number 5. I think number 6 on the list. Number 5 on the list. Next up on the list is, we're going back to the era of 16-bit. Yes, sir. WWE Raw is War for the Sega Genesis. The reason why it's for the Sega Genesis is one reason and one reason only. Do you see the superstar? Remember the original logo for Raw, right? You see the superstar featured in the A category, in the A lettering? That was Razor Ramon.
Absolutely.
Okay. The single reason why Raw is better for the Sega and I would say in nearly a tie Royal Rumble, because they were virtually the same game, just different, just a roster refresh. The single reason why I have Raw for the Sega being better than Raw for the Super Nintendo is one reason only: Razor Ramon's theme music. The Yamaha sound processor for the Sega was largely panned in favor of the sound processor that the Super Nintendo had. So while the sound processor that you had in the Super Nintendo, it was more dynamic, you got more symphonic sounds. If you think about Super Mario World, for example, you think about Super Mario World versus Sonic the Hedgehog, how it sounded. Sonic the Hedgehog was very much chiptune, right? Chiptune and blocking, but it had a bass. It was lower register. Any game with low register sounds sounded much better on Sega than Super Nintendo. All I'm gonna tell you like this: if you want to do it, fans, go ahead, listen to the theme music of Razor Ramon on Raw, or Royal Rumble, and listen to Razor Ramon's theme music on Sega, and you'll see the difference. That's the only reason why the Sega Genesis version of Raw is better than Super Nintendo. I had them both. This game here, even on the Sega, right, which I should probably give Super Nintendo the edge. Super Nintendo had more buttons on the controller, unless you had a 6-button controller on the Sega Genesis, in which case it made it easier for you to do more of the moves. But the gameplay was simple, but dynamic. Each wrestler had their own special moves. They, to a degree, because they had different attributes, they did move differently. So Undertaker was a slower mover, but he was hard to get him in on a slam. It was hard to slam him, suplex him up, what have you. Yokozuna the same way. Diesel the same way. Owen Hart, Bret Hart, two of the best overall characters in the game. What this one had also was this one also had, when you step outside in the curtain, or we step outside on outside the ring, outside the apron, it had a chair and it had a bucket. Have at it, right? Have at it. And this one also had the mega moves. So it had an arcade-esque aspect to it if you can unlock them, the secret mega moves. And these moves were unrealistic at the time. Like, for example, Shawn Michaels, he had that tornado super kick. So he would spin around like a tornado and he would propel you and he would kick you out the ring. All right. So with those move sets, those funny, goofy moves and whatnot, it added a little fun flair to the game. There was a tournament mode, so you can advance to the level of becoming the champion. The only thing I didn't like about this one versus Royal Rumble, which it was, I think, equal. I think it's more. I think they were more equal than I compared, for example, WWF Raw, Warzone versus Attitude, and SmackDown versus SmackDown 2. Raw and Royal Rumble were very much similar. In Royal Rumble, when you won the championship, the ref brought you in the title and you could hold it up. In SmackDown or in Raw, you couldn't do that. So in Royal Rumble, you got the title when you won the championship, when you won the tournament. In Raw, you just got fireworks. I kind of missed that. I don't know why that made a difference to me as a 10-year-old, but it did. That's the only thing I didn't like about the game. But other than that, it was very much fun to play. I like the moveset. Have you ever played it?
Absolutely, I did. I loved the intros to this game. I wanted to ask you though, because again, I'm asking you in the moment, was that, in your opinion, the best Acclaim WWF game?
No, Attitude.
Good point.
Attitude, but it took a whole nother console generation.
You know what's crazy about this to me, if I remember correctly, because I want to say this, I'm going off my age at the time, that I'm like, wait a minute, I was not just in elementary school, I was like in very early elementary school, meaning again, I'm going off of just that kind, I'm using that as my baseline here.
Yeah.
But I don't believe Monday Night Raw was that title yet.
It became that after this, because this was, it was called Monday Night Raw. But after this title that the Raw is War, or sometime after this time that the Raw is War nomenclature was introduced for the show. You know what I mean?
And so it literally was ahead of its time.
Yeah. In that respect, it was.
Think about that. Like,
right.
We are often throwing around like the elements of the game were ahead of its time. No, folks, the namesake was ahead of its time.
Right.
I mean, look at, I can't even.
Yeah, you're right about that, because I'm saying this game came out 93, 94. Raw is War.
Yes, I was thinking 94 in my head.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Like so, Raw is War has the TV product, the TV show.
I'm thinking that's when I'm in
like
almost middle school.
98. Yeah. So it was a few. I think there was a few years before that became the TV show. So you're right. Yeah, it was definitely ahead of its time. But this here is on my list of my 6 favorite wrestling games ever played. That I ever played. Next up on the list.
All right, here we go.
WCW NWO Revenge. Man.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Like I said, absent the height proportion characters, this was as complete a game as a wrestling game as it was in its time. It does eclipse Attitude because it had the actual gameplay was a bit more, I think, for more realistic, more engaging, right? You had to work on getting out of those holds. You know, you were in submissions, you had to work your way out of them, right? You had to press the buttons to work your way out of the submissions. The grappling, the high grapple, the quick grapple versus the long grapple. The titles and the factions that you could create, the belts that you could wrestle for. You didn't compete just for the WCW titles. Remember, IJPW I think was in there, and so you had wrestlers from around the world that you could create, that you could battle against. So it was very much complete, very much a complete wrestling game. Let me see here. What am I missing? What am I missing about this game? What am I missing? Hold on, I'll have to do some research that I did not cover. Now it came out in 98.
One of my only issues that I was frustrated by with this game right away was that Ric Flair wasn't in it.
Gotcha. Yep.
And I didn't ever understand why, because he was such a focal point of the show at the time. And or at least he was still very, very much relevant. And so it just seemed strange to me. And not that he was by far my favorite wrestler or anything, in that moment, but I just, something I don't want to forget. You could steal the opponent's special.
Yeah.
That there were, if I remember, there were a handful of cheats in the game that you could use.
How about knocking them off the turnbuckle?
Oh, absolutely.
That right, you could go and you could have a guy on the turnbuckle and drop kick him off the joint, right? And how about this? Of all the first person shooters and party games, who would have imagined that it would be a wrestling game that was one of the definitive multiplayer games of its generation? Right? Remember, before you had 4, it came complete with 4 controller slots. Playing this, 4 players, wrestling. Oh yeah. This was a definitive party game. Yeah, but I think the level of you're right, stealing the finisher, blocking the finisher. You know what I'm saying? Getting a jackknife power bomb, stealing it. You know what I'm saying? That was amazing, right? For you to be able to pull that off. Like, how did you? Yeah, be able to pull that off, the choke slam and all that.
Oh my gosh! Again, you could run around. You were running around the action outside of the ring.
Right.
Again, you were able to grab things from be underneath at that point.
Yep.
And then your control of the factions.
Yes. And
you brought up the rosters, but as much credit as we should give WCW for the Lucha Libres and again, I want to say the guy's name was like Kiko Man. Like, yep. Look, there were so many people in this game.
Yes.
That I talk about Sick Boy, I talk about Raven's Flock. Like, this was an education.
Oh yeah.
Into wrestling.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the favorite. That was the best part about it. Using the Lucha Libres,
dude.
Because you didn't have the height proportion characters, right? So they because of that imbalance, what that meant was you give me Ultimo Dragon versus Kevin Nash, I'm winning because of his moveset. You had the Ultimo Dragon's moveset. And so when you had that, you get to see, man, Ultimo Dragon, Eddie Guerrero, right? Those guys, Rey Mysterio. When you were able to use those guys and the different holds and the Hurricane Radas and the sweeping arm drag takeovers, all of that, man, it was amazing. This was one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites easily. One of the reasons to get an N64 for sure.
Dude, I mean, again, it made up for what we would consider that ladder style of from a single player mode.
Yes.
And just to have the Nitro theme.
Yep.
Again, I keep talking about a lot of that because they still to this day is stuck in my mind. It is forever going to be tied to this game, which was like, guys who could really rub shoulders with one another, whether it was La Parka, whether it was Yugi Nagata, Chris Jericho, and just like you got to. I mean, the decor. Every Sting, right? Mm-hmm. Sting's bat. You had the NWO belt.
Yep.
In this game.
Yeah, you did.
This was absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was a great one to play.
And again, we're talking about that. So to me, when we talk about that, what was it? 81? Was it 81 weeks that they beat him?
Or was it 82?
Okay.
Yeah, 81 and 82. I think it's 82 weeks. This is part of the reason why.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Like this game seriously was part of the reason why, because you were engaging in this game, and then it carried over, or what you saw in the game, what you saw on TV, carried over into playing this.
Absolutely, could not agree more. Again, this was not only ahead of its time; it really was in a class of its own.
Yes. It was better than Monday Nitro and Thunder to me. Those were the PS PlayStation games at the time.
And that was the thing. Again, the multiplayer aspects of this too. I don't want to understate, what their role was, because as you pointed it out, you summed it up perfectly by calling it a party game.
Yep.
And this is in an era where, Mario Party was a thing.
Mario Party was a thing. and GoldenEye.
Absolutely.
It was the thing.
And the fact that you could throw in a wrestling game
yes,
and get, dude, and I'm sure this is going to take you back too. This is going to bring you to a weekend in your life.
Yep.
That, I would have needed to borrow a pair of our host Depends from Laughter.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Right. Yeah, man. You talk about this.
When you would just see like some of the destruction in the wake of that destruction from having those, your family and friends playing alongside you at varying stages, and naturally in a battle royal with the wackiest of characters that you would unfortunately never see in anything like that again.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, the result, it was like Ratatouille if it were a game.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it was just pure brilliance and excellence.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just, by all means, I'm intrigued to see the remainder of this list because, man, that one, I lost hours of my life. And if someone were to ask if I could do that part of it all over again at the expense of that game, the answer is absolutely not.
Absolutely. So next up on the list, and I mentioned this in previous shows because it showed up on the list that we had reviewed a few weeks ago.
Okay.
SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain.
I knew one of them.
Yeah, this was the one. This is the one. I remember, man, I remember working second shift at a job. And I ain't gonna lie, I was in my 20s, and this is what I wanted to do when I got home. You know what I'm saying? When I got home,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Wait a minute.
I was itching to continue my path, and I would play this game. I would get off at 11:30, and I get home about midnight, and then I'm firing this up, and I'm playing this 3-4 in the morning, right? Losing lots of sleep playing this. Man, like I told you, creating my character here, the creative player, the matches, progressing through the story, going into that elimination chamber, creating my character that was admittedly undersized. Like I was like a small, or I think I built myself at the same height and weight similar to Shawn Michaels. I'm in the elimination chamber. Brock, Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, right? Going through a gauntlet. I remember doing a move where Shawn and Kevin Nash were climbing up one side of the cage, and I drop kicked them both off the side of the cage. That was the most epic spot I had created up until that point. And I took some damage too, but it just the cinematography of it, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, it just man, I couldn't believe it. Like I recognizing that Shut Your Mouth, I think, was before it. I think Shut Your Mouth had more what we come to learn is Shut Your Mouth had more, I think, more arenas or more arenas or more venues that you could play in. I really wasn't fairly concerned about that as much. I didn't miss it because I like the gameplay of it. Battling Brock as undersized as I am for the WWE champion and winning, right? That was a battle. You know what I mean? I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the pacing of it. That's one of the main reasons why I like this game. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'm intrigued between this and the OG of the other version, of course.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the list up, so I don't know if those two are there. But one of the things that I always think about as it pertains to this game is not only Hillbilly Jim, but Rhino. And Rhino is the person, like I said, that actually did a drop for Aiden many years ago when he was working at an Indiana promotion.
Yeah.
And so just a very, very cool. The game itself, again, the seasons mode, I believe, is something I appreciated. And the mini games.
Yes.
This was, I'm trying to remember how many other games of its kind prior had that. And this is that we just are coming off the heels of breaking down a game that was able to capture that without having any kind of direct like section, with mini games.
Right.
And so it really like, I really admit, like, I don't recall any others, but it makes sense given that era that they would. But as far as a game, the game itself, very complete. And again, from a single player mode, I don't think I don't recall ever really being disappointed. And that's the thing. Like most games, you always are left kind of wanting something, or like, I wish they really would have incorporated this, or it's what you don't have versus what you do have. And I just recall in that time frame being really kind of content with the product. And that's
with everything else. Yeah, you're right. With everything it offered, I wasn't really missing something that wasn't there. Right.
Exactly.
I wasn't greatly missing something that wasn't there.
And think about that for a second, because it doesn't sound like that statement is a big deal. But if you really look at it and like, and that was something that I do overall. And I'm like, my gosh, it's not even limited to this genre, but in general, I cannot think of too many other times that I really felt that way.
Right.
That to me tells you every bit about how good this was.
So what I'm going to do real quick, I am going to jump to my honorable mention, and I'm going to go all the way back.
I love it.
All the way back to the NES.
Well, now, wait a minute. Wow.
Not for WrestleMania, which I know was their favorite for the NES, because they actually, on the 8-bit, you had, you had playable superstars, right? And they looked and sort of like, they looked like the character models or what have you. You had 6 of them and what have you. But this was a far better wrestling game, bar none. It was far better wrestling game. One of the best wrestling games in around its time. Pro wrestling. Do you remember this? Have you ever played this?
I did play it. My cousin had it.
Yes.
Okay. So this, again, unfortunately, due to my age, this came out before I was here.
Ah, right.
And so, because thankfully, I don't know how this worked out. And this is where I'm like, man, economics today versus back then were just different, because there's different levels of struggle. And so, like, getting the chance to play this, and I'm trying to remember the Panther is what I'm.
Yep, Giant Panther.
There. Okay. Dude, I'm telling you, like, I have pretty much an EID memory.
Yeah.
And if I had any doubt of it, I'm under 5 when I'm playing this.
Yeah.
That shouldn't. No.
Yeah.
Like, unless it was associated with some kind of trauma, and you know what I mean. Like, and no, it wasn't. So, thankfully, yeah.
That's right. This game here, man.
But it was the first time. Again, it brought I don't know if it was like, because this is I think coming off the heels of myself playing Punch-Out, which I have a signed Punch-Out thing from Mike Tyson.
Right.
And getting a chance of, like, at least a sample right? And that's why I'm glad you pointed out the arcade.
Yep.
Because that's what I think made the arcade so special to me ultimately, was how I was slowly getting into this space. Slowly, I guess, groomed into, but the desire was there for me. And so from a button mashing, young child playing this, seeing a purple ring, from what I remember, I mean, I almost want to call it pink.
It was a blue. It was a version of blue.
Okay. All right. Well, that was my eyes then. And it just
yeah, let me do something for you real quick. There you go.
There it is. Okay. All right. So that's where, okay, that was where, and that, again, that's going right off the top of my head here. Like, it was absolutely fun. It was
fun. Yes.
It wasn't perfect, but it was, in many ways, it wasn't supposed to be, right? No. Like it really.
But like, I mean, just take a look at this image, right? And you got to think about this. Let me explain. Like, look at the image of the gameplay. All right. So you see how fairly large your character models are. You see the ring. Now, the bottom turnbuckles you couldn't climb on, but the top turnbuckles you did. You could. You see the ref. You also see down at the bottom, you see the TV camera model there. You can get outside the ring and you can do battle outside the ring. But the move set, for it to be a 2-bit, for it to be an 8-bit Nintendo game, the move set I think was pretty robust, right? There was a lot you could do with a little bit, which means that imagination was certainly at play. The man being able to put somebody up on a suplex and the splashing that you hear when they hit the mat was fantastic. The sound quality, and then the characters like Starman that you're looking at, a fighter Hayabusa.
Yes, the Starman. Yes,
Starman. Yeah. No, fire Hayabusas as a Guri. Oh my goodness! If you were able to pull that off, oh my goodness, man! I think on the Nintendo Switch, I believe if you had the Switch and you have the and you pay for the Switch Online, I forgot what payment tier it is, but if you pay on Switch, if you pay for Switch Online and you're able to get the NES console, this game is listed there. This game is so it's playable on the Switch in its native kind of like, in its native control set or what have you. So you get the feeling of playing it like you're playing it on the Nintendo. And I'm gonna tell you what, it was like last year I was playing it. I had to remember. It took me a minute to remember how to pull off the Ezaguri, and it was fantastic to pull off that simple move.
You know what's crazy to me? Because you were gonna have to tell me because you played it more recently.
Yeah,
I remember winning a handful of times, and then the title appeared.
Yes.
So it didn't feel, it was, I don't know, it was a very strange thing, right? Because I don't know the how many, and I don't know any of that as far as like that ladder, if we wanted to call it.
Yep.
So kind of shed some light on just that part of it, because again, folks, if this is not a part of.
Oh, when you want to talk about a career mode,
yeah.
Let me tell you. Let me explain something to you.
Oh, here we go. The floor is yours.
You pick your wrestler, and you battle through small roster of just of a total 6. You pick your wrestler, you battle through, and you win. You win the title. Once you win the title, the game is not over yet. You defend your title through the same roster. And once you defend your title through the same roster, the game is not over yet. You meet Great Puma. When I tell you Great Puma and the boss from Ninja Gaiden and beating the Undertaker in at WrestleMania are three of the hardest things to do. And you know, when I tell you that, believe it, okay? Great Puma. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mike Tyson. All right. Great Puma, Mike Tyson, The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and the Boston Ninja Gaiden. Those are four of the probably on the Mount Rushmore of the four hardest bosses to face, period. All right. That was the career mode that was kind of built into a game. Now, let me bring it home with you. Like I told you, you play through once, you win the title, you play through and defend the title, then you meet Great Puma, right? This is a game that had a story mode or a career mode for a game that came out in what year? I'll let you take a guess.
For me, I want to say it had to have been at least 1985 because it was
1986. So you were one off. So that means that means you get to pick a prize, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, this game was
it
was complete. Like it was a sign that Nintendo seal of quality meant something because this was as complete a game as you could get from an 8-bit console.
Unbelievable.
So that's why it's my honorable mention. So to bring it on home, because I know we got a few other things we want to do before we get out of here. My favorite wrestling game of all time.
Well, now wait a minute.
Okay.
Here we go.
What it do, sports fans? It's your man BSJ from the Shop Report. And guess what? The shop is now open for business, baby. If you're on Facebook, go to our fan page, The Shop Report, click on more, and then shop to view all products. Or if you're on Instagram, click on the shop tab to see all our products. I mean, what you want me to do? I'm selling merch here.
All right. Here we go. Let's see it.
So here it is. My favorite wrestling game of all time. WWE 2K14. 2K14, you say? Why 2K14? The reason why it's 2K14 is because now this is the year after CM Punk was on the cover. So this is the first year, right? Because it was called WWE 13. So this is the first year that the 2K14 branding was available for the game. Why is it my favorite? I think most of the others that follow it are derivative, and I don't mean that as a terrible insult, but let's say when we talk about, like, when I put Attitude on the list, the things that we saw in Attitude that are adopted in later games first came to be, if you will, from Attitude. So while functionally, other games are better than 2K14, the very best of what we first saw in 2K14. Does that make sense? So being able to create my entire move set in the way that I was able to create my move set was fantastic for me. I was able to get a wrestler that had a move set that all made sense, right? I liked to
now tell everyone about that. That was, name another time that you could do that.
I don't remember. And if there were some that were before this, like on the Xbox, I didn't play. I wasn't a fan of any of the Xbox wrestling games, but on PS3, right, and Xbox 360, different story. Or Xbox One even, right? My move set, all of it, down to the my short grapples, my long grapples, my kickouts, my specials. You remember you had your finisher and you also had your special, right? You know, your setup move, pretty much. All of that. And then add that to the career modes and story modes that you could create, and the narratives that you could create your character. That to me made it my favorite. It made it my favorite. I know that there are others. I know this is most controversial. I know we 10 years, 11 years removed from it, but it was my favorite.
No, and I don't have any problem with this pick at all, because it really, like, obviously it was the full roster sticks out to me. So you had the legends, you had from all the WrestleManias, and so that implies that you also had all the arenas. The road to WrestleMania was obviously fantastic.
Yep. This one had 30 years of WrestleMania.
Right. So again, now emphasizing that you got to play with pretty much everyone as far as like the legends that you would have absolutely wanted to.
Yep.
It was, I don't want to say that it wasn't ahead of its time in any way, but it really was, it just was, I talk about the word complete.
Yes, thank you. I was saying it has complete a game in its time as ever, right? In its time. If you need everything that you want in a wrestling game, I don't know what it missed. The OMG moments. Remember those?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
The OMG moments, right? And being able to if I'm right, one of the OMG moments was being able to slam somebody through not only the cage, but through the guard, through the ring,
right.
Yeah, through the outside apron, through the barricade, right? Being able to break the announce table. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, right? Being able to come off the top and break the announce table, the Spanish announce table, right?
Right.
Yeah, all of that. And the 30 years of WrestleMania, being able to go and revisit Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart Iron Man match.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, the ladder match at WrestleMania 10. Right? Those matches, beating the streak, being able to compete as someone else, has someone other than The Undertaker to try to beat the streak. So for me, that my challenge was being CM Punk, because I thought he was going to be the guy to do it. Oh my goodness. I thought everything led up to him being the one. I swear I thought he was going to be the one to do it. If he had done it, that would have been amazing. Man, everything about it. I thought he was going to be the one, but he wasn't. But alas, he wasn't. So this year, because of the completeness of the game and the character set and the move set, to being able to make an entire move set that made sense for my wrestler, being, I think, the first to be able to do that in its generation, it's my favorite game. I'll go back and I'll play this before I play any of the other ones, even the more modern ones. They may have made fixes or what have you. I like this one the best.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, I think that's a fantastic list. I don't know if I would have changed really anything on my end. I may have only replaced an honorable mention.
Really? What would you have placed?
Well, I think only, again, the way you brought up the other NES game.
Yeah.
I would have brought up the arcade only because
WrestleMania, the arcade game on the NES.
Yeah, only because of the, I guess, kind of setting a stage of where things were going to go. But I thought you actually accomplished that by actually pointing that out. We've seen others do it in a different way, with pointing out, some maybe not true predecessors, but just some that were different. Like there was, I want to say there's a game that's been around, like I want to say it was Wrestling X or something. that came out that was for just in the console stages that had a couple renditions, and it's still like getting updates. And it's just one of some of those outliers. And so, no, for me, fantastic. Again, it's more of a nuance, right? Between, and then with the WCW NWO Revenge, would I have honorable mentioned its predecessor with World Tour?
Yeah, but when its successor does everything that the predecessor did and then eclipse it, why? And again, it's not because it doesn't make it bad. It's just that here's the pattern, but everything. What do you miss about World Tour in WCW NWO Revenge? What do you miss? What's missing?
That's what I struggle with, and that's why this is all off the cuff with that. And then I want to say, was there one of the SmackDown versus Raws that you didn't include that I think we talked about on a previous list?
I'm gonna tell you my challenge, because we talked about this, right? I'd have to admit I played none of the SmackDown versus Raw games.
Okay, all right.
My fatigue with wrestling and or wrestling games had set in, so I missed it. And because it was SmackDown versus Raw, I was also missing it. And because professional wrestling is something that, unlike professional sports, other sports, to me, it didn't need an annual release, in my opinion, because the story can change, or the story doesn't change as much, or you can revisit stories. I felt like a strong enough engine with maybe game as a service fits professional wrestling better than most other sports. And so I felt like maybe you didn't need to have a game every year, because I didn't think that there was very much different from SmackDown versus Raw 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, that you needed a brand new product every year for another $50. That's what I felt. Like, if you look at my list spans 3 decades. And I don't really have games. I don't have too many games within a couple years of each other, because I think wrestling is a product that you can do that. A story can last for a long time. These are characters that exist inside of its realm. They don't age, right? I can put, even now, how many wrestlers are deceased that if you turn on a game, you can still fully well imagine Owen Hart battling Eddie Guerrero, or Owen Hart battling Cody Rhodes, and create a WWE championship and have a run with an Owen Hart or Eddie Guerrero, because wrestling is timeless in that way.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And so I thought it was put together fantastically. And again, you covered all the eras.
Yeah, covered all of it.
So with that being said, we will take our final break and get into tonight's Raw in a very quick recap. And by all means, if feel free to share your comments, I know, and sentiments as a whole. No, we're getting into the late night hours and burning the midnight oil, literally. So we will return in just a moment.
It's Cade Cunningham, and you watching the Shop Report.
I'm Tommy Diallo, and you watching the Shop Report. My name's Chris Murray, and you're watching the Shop Report.
You're Jay Nigh, you're watching the Shop Report.
Max and Key, you're dropping in on the shop report.
Barbershop J, Quentin Hines, Super Bowl champion. I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm on.
Hi, I'm Mars Man. We're from Mercury Stadium, and you're watching the Shock Report.
Hey, I'm Billy Butler, and thank you for watching the Shop Report. Hey guys, I'm Les Norman, former Kansas City Royal, and you're watching the Shop Report.
Commander Brown, Detroit Rivers Mountain Training, and I'm watching the Shop Report.
Hey, this is Doug Flynn of the New York Mets. Well, a few other teams, of course, too. And you're watching the Shop Report.
I'm Matt Ramos, and you're watching the Shop Report.
How you doing? I'm Rajay Davis, and you're watching the Shop Report.
How you doing? This is Nelson Figueroa, former Major League pitcher with a lot of teams. You're about to listen to the Shop Report.
All right, and we are back. And so just to quickly go through tonight's Raw, we started the evening with main event Jey Uso eating his way through. And again, let's see, here we go. And he was interrupted by Dark Gable. And of course, unfortunately for him, he said he's going to be Mr. Money in the Bank. And of course, Gable said that the Wyatt Six should actually be after Jey Uso because he stole the Fireflies and abandoned his family.
Wow. Hey, pretty clever remark. Pretty clever remark. Pretty clever statement.
Absolutely. I feel like, again, typically they're not, usually some of these feuds and that type of thing are not quite that direct. And that was perfect.
Hey, don't those glasses look Savage-esque?
I was going to ask you that.
Man. Right. Yeah, I think it's, bro, wait a minute. Didn't Savage have some oh yeah glasses?
Yes, he did.
All right, cool. I'm not tripping there. All right.
Unless this is a Mandela effect. Yes, literally. But because we are seeing that, I don't believe it.
Yeah, bro.
I'm telling you, not only did it exist, but I thought I saw him wearing it in a Slim Jim commercial. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but hold on, we're gonna look this up right now. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. We're gonna cut right to the chase. Wait a minute. No. We gotta, Bing is not gonna. Let's keep talking, but I'm gonna look at.
Yeah. So while we're looking that up, Xavier Woods actually got a win tonight and beat Karrion Kross. Damian Priest has had enough of Liv Morgan, and not only Liv Morgan, but also it seems like the help of Finn Balor.
Oh, really?
He's asked him not only, well, first he keeps wondering how Liv keeps getting in their clubhouse.
Yeah.
Really, again, I used a Friday reference previously, but once again, when Smokey said, "Are you trying to build a clubhouse? What are you stealing the boxes for?" No, I haven't seen the movie recently. It just
right.
That's immediately where my mind went. So yes, love the clubhouse. And of course, Rhea has been referenced. I want to also reference congratulations to her on her Shop Report After Dark on her marriage. On the contrary.
Right. Well, hey, I don't know if you ever remember seeing that movie, My Cousin Vinny. Judge was listening and he said he heard a word when Vinny was on the stand. He says, you testified that you seen the two Utes. And the judge said, Mr. Gambini, what was that word?
Yes.
What was that word? Right. All right. So upon while we were commenting, I was looking upon a cursory Google search. We are just experiencing the Mandela effect.
Stop it.
There are no yeet or oh yeah glasses actually worn by Savage.
Who wore them?
I don't
Dude,
think
no.
no. He had printed glasses with Macho, but there were no oh yeah glasses. He had printed glasses with Macho, but that is and then we had star print, the polka dot, the square print, star print, glasses similarly shaped. We had the Z-line glasses, the zigzag glasses, but we don't actually have Macho Man oh yeah glasses that Macho himself wore.
Interesting. Yeah. Unfortunate news. Kaiser does reveal that Sheamus broke his ribs after attacking him and promises when he returns, he will embarrass Sheamus.
Sheamus broke his ribs. Well. What does that mean? What? Like, so hold on. Let's see. Is this kayfabe or did he actually? He got a sustain?
I thought I told you. I thought last week he really got hurt.
So
if it turns out to be, he did a great job selling it.
Yeah.
Where he really fooled me at that point.
Right. Kaiser says he's recovering from broken ribs. Russell's on. All right. Let's see. Yeah, it's hard to tell. The certain outlets are suggesting that he said he'll be there on Money in the Bank. Broken ribs. During this, came as all this. Yeah. He should be able to return soon. I mean, Money in the Bank is Saturday night.
That's right. Now, in addition, we get Michael Cole opens another tape, and it's Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy saying that they're false prophets, not myself, the digital prophet. People belittling their own families for their own personal gain, and they must pay for their sins. Bo says he is the voice of reckoning, and Uncle Howdy says he is the reckoning. They both say they are nobody as they keep switching chairs. That is directed at Chad Gable.
Oh, yeah?
It has to be.
No, why you say that?
Well, his family would have been the Alpha Academy. And he himself was trying to get the title.
Gotcha.
And of course, he had previously been out there and they tried to attack him then.
Yeah.
So even prior to like the launch of the video, they were still going after the guy. So I'm just going off on a little bit of a
a little bit of a hunch.
Right. So Rey Mysterio remains undefeated against Dirty Dom, going now 3-0 tonight.
They had that matchup on Raw.
Yeah.
How did it look?
Do you remember that? Like, just there's really nobody else. Anybody? Is there anybody out there? Like anybody else? Like,
got you.
I got nothing. And it sounds like they do too.
Right. Well, No, I can't say that. Again, the whole purpose is to get Dom better. To get Dom better. I think the challenge is they got Dom on TV. They got Dom on TV, and Dom, I think, is resonating with the people, right? But he's too green, so they have to catch up. So if I think his angle is resonating so well that it would be a misstep to take him off TV because of how green he is. So they have to find a way to get him up to speed, and what better way than have his dad work matches with him to try to get him up to speed to capture the wave that he's on, because he's in the angle that he's resonating. You see what I'm saying? If he wasn't as hot as he was, he would be off TV. They would do live events, or he'd be at the academy developing. But he's hot right now, and what they have with Dom is working right now. So they have to do it the other way. They have to do it the other way. They have to They have to develop him while on camera.
Oh, makes sense to me. Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker finally come face to face ahead of the IC match at MIT and MITB, I guess.
Can I?
Yep. And so Braun says he's going to destroy him, and Sami thinks that Braun hasn't done his homework and is not as smart and good as Braun thinks he is.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how to call that match, and not that I'm uninterested. I don't know how to call it. For every reason that I think that Braun's gonna take that IC title, and I think I've said as much. Even leading up to it, I just feel like, nah, Sami can pull that off. I don't know how to call it. I mean, I'm trying to put on, whether I work it, whether I shoot on it, I'm actually genuinely, I'm not certain. I'm not convinced. I wouldn't put a gamble on it. I don't know. I think Sami's got more in him than I believe he did. I think Sami can pretty much withstand what I expect Braun to bring. You see what I'm saying? I think for the last few weeks leading up to this, or the last few episodes of the Turnbuckle, I think I looked at it purely from the viewpoint of Braun's horizon and what Braun is bringing, with no consideration of his opposition. But when I step back and try to remain objective, the moment I remain objective, at least when it comes to Sami Zayn, I'm like, man, he might be able to do this. This may be a program. This may not be a changing of the guard, or even if it is a program, Sami, I think, can win this. What do you think?
I'm completely with you that it could go either way.
Yeah,
I don't know if Sami's going to retain or not. I don't like it. And it's really strange, I guess, that would you be bothered by either outcome?
No. No, I wouldn't be bothered by either outcome. Yeah, I don't think I would be. I wouldn't be bothered by either outcome. What I'm frustrated is I haven't seen enough, or I haven't done enough homework to make a more definitive decision. I haven't done enough homework to be able to say, to take a gamble on it. But I think that's good storytelling as well.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And again, I'm not sure, because Sami only got this thing, a few months ago now?
WrestleMania, right? Somebody's got to have a short. Here's the thing: somebody got to have a short title run. But there has to be a singles title that's on a short wave, right? The tag team titles, we kind of get that. It seemed like tag team titles, yeah, they can go on flux, because it's more talent involved because you got for every 2 singles competitor. You get what I'm saying? To do the numbers, it seemed like it shuffled around a bit more. But the singles titles gotta have a short run. Why not the IC? Or what about the United States title?
Interesting.
Right.
Speaking of titles and runs, Damian Priest again has told Finn Balor not to come out for his world heavyweight title match versus Rollins because he wants to beat him on his own. I feel like we've heard this before from Damian Priest.
Yeah. Was
it him or was it Seth? Or I'm sorry, not Seth. Was it Finn that said that to Damian? Like,
right?
No, it was Damian who said it with the Money in the Bank. Like when he was Senior Money in the Bank.
When you said when he got Money in the Bank, right? Because Judgment Day helped to make that possible, right?
Right. I'm talking about when he was trying to cash it in. That he said like,
oh, right,
something along those lines. And Finn helped then. So your point, and this definitely means he's going to help again.
Or will he? Will the help?
I think this one is a little bit more clear that the help is going to hurt.
Yes.
And you get what you want, which is the demise or at least some change in the Judgment Day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You see, Judgment Day, I mean, these characters are all sort of dark anyway. And if you got the Wyatt Six, right? Think of it this way. Back in the Attitude Era. And again, I totally missed the mark on the Brood. I was disconnected. But when the Brood came to rise, you had the Ministry and you also had the Acolytes. The Acolytes became bounty hunters and henchmen. So they were not dark. But then you had the Ministry. And what did they do? They swallowed the Brood into it. So 2 dark angles don't necessarily, somebody got to go to the light. And I think Judgment Day is increasingly moving toward its conclusion in that the talent in Judgment Day have all elevated. And now they can, which is what I think a stable, one of the 2 jobs of a stable to do. They elevated the talent. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's again, I'm kind of with you on it that there's going to be some changes. It'll be interesting to see how it lines up because I could easily see some combination of Damian and Rhea versus either Dom in Liv or Finn in Liv or something like that.
Yes.
And so but this would be the natural first domino to kind of fall in order for that to become reality, or for us that kind of head that direction. So speaking of the direction we're heading, we had Drew McIntyre, who beat both Sheamus and Dragunov in a triple threat to get the final spot in the Money in the Bank match. And of course, he declared that he will be walking out of that PLE as the new World Heavyweight Champion.
Jay Carmelo Andrade, Chad, LA Knight, and Drew. Like I told you, I hope with all that's in me that LA Knight don't get that Money in the Bank and do what he did and do what he intends. I swear.
Didn't you just say you wanted that title to change hands? There's only one way for that to happen.
No, it's plenty of other ways. You don't cash in. You don't cash in. That's all I'm saying. Like you don't cash in for second place.
Second, no, we're not doing this. It's too late.
Somehow or another. Listen, all right. You are intent on believing that the Intercontinental United States title are on the same level of prestige and acclaim as the World Heavyweight title and the WWE Championship. You are intent on making that so,
We're
sir.
not doing this tonight.
You are so for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I can't figure out what for. Since you intend on doing that, that only makes sense to you. All I'm telling you is that's to suggest that if you win a lottery ticket, you be like, listen, don't give me the jackpot. I just want the $1 million. That's just what,
dude.
That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Okay, this is why LA Knight should not win this Money in the Bank. He don't deserve it, and I think everybody understanding. All right, let me ask you a question. Which of the 5 of them, Jay, Carmelo, Andrade, Chad Gable, and Drew McIntyre, name another one of those guys that would do the same?
I'm going to tell you right now. Well, here's the
cash
thing.
in for an Intercontinental title. Name one.
Well, Drew isn't because he's already stated what he was interested in. I think Dark Gable would.
See, you know what? We need to end the show right now.
Wait, what's Sami Zayn's title? The IC title, right? So he's that was his prize, his precious.
They would win the Money in the Bank for a title that isn't the World Heavyweight or WWE title. I mean, all right, bro. What's the World Heavyweight title for?
You know what? Then make one specific for that belt. Then I'm telling you. Then otherwise, because if it can't be used and if it won't be used for anything else, then why even make it allowable?
And so that's where we agree. Because in that world, it would make sense.
And I think at that point, because you see such a vast array of characters in there that you would be like, there's a reason why you would almost want to rule out half the field. Like, oh, Dark Gable's not going to be the heavyweight champion.
Right.
And, you know.
Right. So if Money in the Bank included, you know, Money in the Bank. Yeah. Or like a Money in the Bank final. Like they all don't have to be ladder matches. They can be Money in the Bank, a triple threat, a Money in the Bank, you know, a Fatal 4 maybe, or a mini tournament, a King of the Ring type, Money in the Bank quarterfinals. You know what I'm saying? That could make sense because at that point I feel like I would like to think. My initial thought would be it would make for more variety and to give the ability for creative to just move with more freedom, more fluidity, right? If things are not going a certain way, Money in the Bank, we can always disrupt any type of narrative by having somebody with a Money in the Bank that could just cash it in on Raw, cash it in at a pay-per-view for a specific title. So that way they can refresh stories without having to rewrite or have things in such a non-conclusive way, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And matter of fact, in our final, this may help you a little bit, actually.
Okay.
For next week's Raw, we have announced the New Day versus the Final Testament.
Okay.
Maybe no interest or surprise there.
Interesting to read on the card.
Right. Lyra, Katana Chance, Caden Carter versus and Caden Carter versus Damage Control.
Mm.
But specifically, main event Jey Uso versus Dark Gable. So my question to you, we'll get a little bit of the pool here, is does that influence what happens over the weekend?
Well, yeah, of course, but the game that the question that you're asking is how. Like that's the mystery, right? If we want to try to, be good guessers or smart marks here, how? Main event you said of next week's Raw is Jey Uso versus Dark Gable.
Not main event. I said main event Jey Uso.
Or is that a Freudian slip on my part?
Yeah, yes.
Right? Would you consider how critical I've been of
production
Jey?
Gulley, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So main event Jey versus Dark Gable next week on Raw. If Drew ends up with Money in the Bank, he has to go another direction with it. I think that's a sign that neither of those guys end up with Money in the Bank.
100,000%. So who wins Money in the Bank not named Drew McIntyre?
Crew Zackentire. Yeah, so if all right, so it would be stating the obvious, right? Right, no, it would be perfect. It would be ideal retribution. Drew McIntyre wins Money in the Bank, continues to lose titles. CM Punk gets healthy, wins World Heavyweight title versus Damian Priest. Drew cashes in, in karma. Karma is you know what karma is. And then they battle for it again. And then they still have a program that leads to which was supposed to be this year's WrestleMania match, leads CM Punk back to WrestleMania for a title versus Drew McIntyre. And I know we are 7-4. We are 9 months away from that.
I think you're close. It's just I don't think I think Rollins has it, and then Punk and Drew figure it out. Someone finally along the way. It's just a matter of who.
What you mean Rollins maintains the World Heavyweight title?
He takes it from Priest.
But does what with it?
Well, he's already kind of added the stipulations, right? He may make it to SummerSlam in a rematch for it, but at some point, Drew has already said if he wins Money in the Bank that he's going to go after that specific belt. So it just means that Rollins is in the way.
If Priest wins, Rollins doesn't get another title shot. If Rollins wins, Priest must leave Judgment Day. Rollins winning, Priest must leave.
Because otherwise, if Priest retains, you're going to have, or Priest could retain, which doesn't help our storyline with what we were talking about ultimately occurring. And to make matters worse, then here in comes Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, but you know what's backwards to me? Why creative would drive that sort of angle? Why creative would suggest that Rollins challenges Damian Priest to leave? Like, that seems sort of forced.
Especially considering Rollins wasn't even here. What of all things,
right? He wasn't even.
He could have said, "You're going to come to work in a clown suit." You know what I mean? Like you're going to be doing the clown for the next 3 months.
For what it's worth, Judgment Day has not negatively affected Seth Rollins that I could remember. He didn't have a beef with him.
Finn.
Yeah, but Finn hasn't risen. Finn is a tag team champion now. So
With his
even
buddy JD that he trained when they were like teens.
Yeah, but I'm saying none of that.
It is. The more you think about it, the weirder it gets. Like, of all things, you have to leave the Judgment Day. Like,
right.
Why? No reason. Like,
yeah. So that tells me that he's
for my own appeasement because
right.
I'm Seth Rollins. Like,
yeah, exactly. You're right. He don't care. Like, why would I care? Like, bring everybody. Now, I'm gonna tell you what. That's the one thing about The Rock, right? Or many, but instantly The Rock comes to mind. He didn't care what fashion you with. Bring them all. I don't care. I don't care if I'm overmatched. I wouldn't tell you to leave anybody behind. Bring them and them with you. Bring Cody. Yeah. Bring like he named his belt Mama Rhodes, which is still funny.
Incredible. But you know what? Though that belt goes back to what WrestleMania was it that he whipped someone like that?
Right, that Mama Rhodes belt.
He had a different one that he was whipping somebody else on, and I want to say was a Hall of Famer. It's gonna really was it Hogan?
Did he whip Hogan with the belt?
Oh, dude, I think he did.
Or did he whip Booker T? Gotta find that out.
Yes,
research that. But again, returning to what we're saying, it just seems rather forced, and so that forced, in my opinion, stipulation suggests that it was going to happen. Because I think, like I said, I think Judgment Day is over with.
As we know it.
So kicking Priest out of Judgment Day because he's otherwise not, he doesn't hold that faction together.
Interesting. So who's the glue?
Let's ask Megan Alva.
Is Dominic Mysterio? Oh, interesting.
It's Miss Ripley.
Wow. Well,
go ahead.
Go for it. No.
Yeah, so Rhea Ripley, who's injured, is the glue of Judgment Day. Tell me this. Tell me, what is the likelihood you'll see Damian Priest help secure McDonough and Balor in the title match? Let's just say any match or versus New Day, something goes left. Damian Priest, the World Heavyweight Champion, is going to come down and help them secure that win. Like, do you see, is that plausible? Do you see that? Like, do you see he gives about them keeping that tag title to the point where he's going to help them keep it? He don't want them to help him, but he's going to help them. Like, that don't make sense.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. Well, then I think Mommy's return will be here. Matter of fact, lived throughout the first pitch the other day that when I was here.
Yep, she did.
Cannon arm, by the way. That thing, yep. She was standing on the mound and it made it to home plate.
What?
Like, yeah. Take notes, 50 Cent.
Hey, listen, it's all about mechanics. Right. Having proper mechanics. So
wow.
Liv knows what to do with her arms.
Yeah. Or with, never mind. And it.
Yeah, man. It's been fun, but we got
to. Any final thoughts from you on this week's Raw, Money in the Bank, and
I'd like to be I like to watch Money in the Bank because the Money in the Bank stipulation does throw plenty of variety into the narratives that we see, into the stories or the into the universe. And so that being said, I'm interested to watch it, right? Especially because showed you, I don't know where Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn is going to go. I don't know the direction that's going to go. I can't forecast that. So I like to see it. Excuse me. I'm also interested in where else is AEW going to go, because why, for what any reason, considering how low the ratings have been, how did they make Fox News? Because of the $2 billion valuation. The product is trending downward in terms of viewership, but its valuation brings it to Fox News.
Yeah, but to me, that's the NBA.
Well, do you think AEW kind of like went into PR mode and sort of invited themselves to Fox News for the valuation, or is somebody looking at AEW and saying, "Oh wow, hey, this is worth $2 billion." Hey, though that to me,
what do you think the Turner networks want back in?
Well, I'm just saying, you see, like I'm saying, how the product's viewed poorly by its base, but the vehicle itself is being highlighted because of its valuation. The two things don't make sense. Like, it's not like, hey, highest viewership ever, worth $2 billion. Come on, get on this train. Lowest viewership in a while, worth $2 billion. Let's get you to Fox News. Though that, to me, those ideas don't correlate to one another. One idea doesn't spell out there. Like, it's worth $2 billion, but ain't nobody watching it. I like to see where I think there's more to that we'll find out in the not too distant future. And I'm interested to see what's being made, what sense is being made from those current endpoints, right? What's being met in the middle that's going to be presented to us. But that's all I got for this week, man.
Love it. Well, on my end, I completely agree. I want to see what happens over the weekend, and then we'll pick things right back up.
Well, in the meantime, in between time, stay tuned. We got the shop report not Wednesdays, man. Saturday at 9 on the PM side. We'll be back next week, Monday. In the Monday in the 9:30, 10 p.m. hour, going live with more recap, fallout from Money in the Bank and other stories in the wrestling world. In addition to your list, Double J, because you got to get a list. That way we can put these out. And you guys got thoughts, comments, concerns, criticisms. I know y'all like to laugh at me with my lazy eye, but I'm here for all the jokes. Just make them funny, you know what I'm saying? Because I want to laugh too. So that being said, if anything we're missing, yeah, Detroit fan man. Yes, we know you late. Y'all should have been here early, right? Absolutely. So listen, like our host says, anytime you really want, you want to know what's really going on, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome.
Holla.
Peace.